left. He just left, walked out the door. Once he realized that I was going to divorce him, he walked
Lori
out the
wasn't
door.
born a Harvey. Steve adopted her when he got with Marjorie, his wife, but she got with him on some.
When I think about how quickly he moved forward from me to Marjorie, that was disturbing.
Thanks to my wife, I'm where I am. You said that about the first wife. You forget us. You told us it was her. Then you went and married somebody else that think like him.
Marjorie Harvey is reportedly feeling a lot of pressure after Katt Williams and Wendy Williams called her out over claims that she played a major role in pulling Steve Harvey's family apart and influencing decisions that damaged his relationship with his biological children. Things got even messier when Steve's ex-wife, Mary Shackelford, stepped into the conversation and backed accusations that family tensions got a lot worse after Marjorie came into the picture. What makes this whole situation crazy is that Katt and Wendy were speaking on Steve years ago, way before most people were really paying attention. Back then, a lot of fans brushed them aside and acted like they were just bitter or being messy. But now, people are looking back at those old interviews and realizing they may have been warning everybody from the beginning. If you followed Steve and Marjorie over the years, then you already know people have questioned Marjorie's past from day one. A lot of the criticism comes from her history of dating controversial men, along with the belief that Steve became distant from certain parts of his biological family after getting serious with her. There have also been long-running rumors that Marjorie pushed Steve to focus heavily on her children, even adopting them and giving them opportunities some people felt his biological children should have had too. Steve Harvey has 4 biological children with 3 different women, but people online keep pointing out that we barely hear much about them unless there's some type of family drama or issues around their relationship with him. Meanwhile, Marjorie's children, especially Lori, are constantly in the spotlight front and center at events, fashion shows, and all across social media. A lot of critics don't think that's just random luck, and they've been questioning the family dynamic for years. Now, for people who don't know much about Marjorie's past, her first marriage has been heavily talked about online for a long time. She was linked to Jim Townsend, a man who later became known for serious legal trouble connected to criminal activity.
Emails and the text messages and the different things that I was finding out about. I thought the least that he could do, make me whole.
What shocked a lot of people was the fact that he was reportedly still married when they first got involved, and there was also a noticeable age gap between them. Marjorie later said she didn't know about the marriage situation at first, but critics still looked at the relationship sideways because they eventually went on to build a family together. There have also been rumors for years that Marjorie was attracted to wealthy men because she wanted financial security. Some online gossip even claims this turned into a pattern in her dating life, with people accusing her of ignoring red flags as long as the money and lifestyle were there. Though all of that is still alleged and heavily debated online. Back in the early 1990s, Jim Townsend ended up facing serious federal charges tied to an attempted purchase of illegal substances, and he was eventually sentenced to life in prison. But by that point, Marjorie had already moved on with her life and left the relationship years before. Reports say she divorced Jim while he was serving his sentence, and at the time, she was reportedly expecting their second child. A lot of people assumed that experience would push Marjorie toward a quieter lifestyle, but critics claim the same kind of controversy followed her again. After Jim, she reportedly became involved with Darnell Woods, who was said to be connected to Jim's family. And according to long-running rumors, Darnell was also tied to similar street activity and legal issues. That detail alone had people online raising eyebrows because they couldn't understand why she would jump right back into another complicated situation. The gossip got even louder after people found out that Darnell is believed to be Lori Harvey's biological father. Since then, critics have constantly debated Marjorie's dating history and questioned whether financial stability played a major role in the men she chose to be with. Not too long after all that drama, she eventually crossed paths with Steve Harvey, and that relationship completely shifted the direction of her public image. By the time Steve Harvey and Marjorie got serious, Steve was already a father of 4 and had finally started seeing major success from his comedy career. But critics have argued for years that once Marjorie entered the picture, the family dynamic completely changed.
He just left, walked out the door. Once he realized that I was going to divorce him, he left. He just left, walked out the door. Once he realized that I was going to divorce him, he walked out the door.
Steve went on to marry Marjorie, legally adopt her 3 children, and build a very public, blended family image that some people felt left his biological children pushed off to the side. At the time, many fans believed Steve had already ended his marriage to Mary before getting involved with Marjorie. But according to Mary Shackelford, that wasn't the complete story. Mary claimed she found emails and letters that allegedly showed Steve and Marjorie were romantically communicating before the divorce was finalized. She also accused Steve of turning their son Winton against her and making her look like the cause of all the family problems. Things became even more controversial when Mary made serious allegations involving an incident with Winton. In claims later discussed by TMZ, Mary alleged that Steve became extremely upset after getting a call from Winton's school about missing homework. She claimed the situation escalated physically and that Winton ended up badly hurt afterward, eventually needing medical treatment. These accusations sparked major backlash online, especially because critics questioned whether the adults around him should have stepped in sooner during the family conflict. According to reports connected to the case, Winton allegedly told authorities that Steve disciplined him using both a belt and a wooden paddle-like object during a heated situation at home. Police documents reportedly mentioned visible bruises and marks on his body, including injuries to his leg and upper thigh area.
Steve never said that he was sorry. He had our housekeeper pack his belongings up and forward those belongings to you. He took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me, had me evicted.
Reports also claimed Winton said the incident left him hurting for several days afterward, which made the allegations even more disturbing for people following the story online. Critics were shocked because they felt the situation raised serious questions around the custody battle and the tension inside the family at that time. Some people argued that the conflict between Steve and Mary may have spilled into the way things were handled with their son. Despite the claims and reported evidence, the case didn't move forward, which led to years of online speculation from people who believe Steve's celebrity status and powerful industry connections may have helped protect his image. Mary Shackelford didn't stop there. She later made even more explosive accusations and challenged one of the biggest parts of Steve Harvey's famous homelessness struggle story. According to Mary, Steve allegedly exaggerated parts of that story to make his rise to fame seem even more dramatic and inspirational than it actually was. Those claims sparked huge debates online, especially among fans who always viewed Steve's life story as one of the most motivating comeback stories in entertainment. For a long time, a lot of people brushed off Mary Shackelford's accusations because they assumed she was just a frustrated ex-wife speaking out after a messy divorce. Many fans didn't completely believe her claims and felt she was simply trying to hurt Steve Harvey's image after their relationship fell apart.
Businesses, all the money, the cars. At a moment when I was down and devastated. He maneuvered everything. He maneuvered manipulated.
But the conversation took a serious turn when Katt Williams publicly backed her up and claimed there was truth behind what she'd been saying for years. That's when the drama really blew up online because Katt didn't stop at family issues. He went straight after Steve's reputation in the comedy world. Katt accused Steve of lacking originality and claimed he borrowed heavily from other comedians to build his career. He even suggested that Steve had quietly been jealous of Bernie Mac during Bernie's lifetime. But after Bernie passed away, he allegedly started picking up parts of Bernie's delivery and style. Katt also brought up long-running rumors involving comedian Mark Curry with claims that Steve had taken inspiration from some of Curry's material and comedic ideas too. And Katt Williams still wasn't done turning up the pressure. He also defended Mary Shackelford's claims about Steve Harvey's famous homelessness story, saying the timeline just didn't line up the way people were told. According to Katt, Steve was already making good money, performing comedy shows, and touring with comedians like Mark Curry long before he became a household name. That statement had social media going crazy because it directly challenged one of the biggest parts of Steve's inspirational image. Katt also seemed frustrated over what he saw as a lack of recognition for the woman who helped Steve in the early stages of his career. Without directly naming Mary, Katt hinted that somebody close to Steve played a major role in helping him build his success from the ground up, yet never got proper public credit. Fans quickly connected the dots and started debating whether Mary deserved more acknowledgement for standing beside Steve before the fame and fortune showed up. And just when it seemed like the drama couldn't get any bigger, old clips and comments from Wendy Williams started making the rounds online again. Wendy didn't hold back when talking about Marjorie Harvey and how Lori Harvey's dating life became such a public conversation over the years. Since college, Lori has been linked to several high-profile relationships, and social media has constantly kept track of who she's dating next. According to Wendy, Marjorie should have been more involved when it came to guiding Lori and helping her avoid becoming the center of endless relationship headlines. Wendy suggested that Lori had too much freedom, and that the public image surrounding her dating life reflected that.
Hey girl, I gotta ask you this, because this is practically in so many articles when Steve Harvey is speaking of motivation and all of this other stuff. Was Steve homeless? Was he homeless, sleeping in his car and all of this stuff?
Steve Harvey was never homeless a day in his life.
She also hinted that Steve Harvey didn't really seem to have much control over the situation because, in her opinion, Marjorie had major influence inside the household. Of course, the internet had a whole lot to say after those comments resurfaced. One person wrote, "People talking about Steve Harvey, and forgetting that he abandoned his first wife and kids the second he started making money and getting famous." That comment opened the floodgates online because suddenly people started revisiting old interviews, court stories, and clips that had been buried for years. Critics started questioning whether Steve's family man image was ever really as perfect as it looked on television. A lot of viewers pointed out that while Steve constantly gives relationship advice on talk shows and podcasts, his own family history has remained surrounded by controversy and unresolved tension. Some fans even brought up how Steve rarely speaks publicly about the serious accusations connected to his past marriages. Instead, people noticed that most of the attention always seemed to focus on the glamorous lifestyle he shares with Marjorie, the luxury vacations, designer, fashion celebrity parties, and picture-perfect social media posts. To critics, it started feeling like the brand mattered more than what was actually going on behind the scenes. And the more people looked into things, the more questions started coming up about Lori's rise in Hollywood, too. Online gossip blogs have long claimed that Marjorie and Steve carefully helped shape Lori's image into the it girl status people talk about today. From high-profile connections to major fashion circles, some people believe Lori's fame didn't happen naturally at all. They think it was strategically put together from the start. Those rumors only got louder once Lori started becoming one of the most talked-about names in celebrity dating culture. Every time she got spotted with another famous actor, athlete, or music star, social media exploded with reactions, memes, and endless debates around her relationships. Some people praised her for dating freely and living life on her own terms, while others blamed Marjorie for allegedly encouraging a flashy lifestyle centered around status and attention. What really kept the conversation moving was how Steve always seemed to publicly support Lori no matter what headlines were making waves. Fans noticed he rarely criticized her choices during interviews, and often defended her whenever backlash started getting heavy online. Critics, however, claimed that same patience and understanding didn't always seem to exist when it came to his biological children or his past family issues. And that comparison sparked even more heated discussions. Meanwhile, Wendy Williams kept adding fuel to the internet chatter by repeatedly hinting that there was a lot more happening behind the scenes than the public really knew about.
Because let's just add this up. Between your mama's house, Marsha's house, my apartment, and whatever you had purchased for Marjorie, what point in there would he have time to be homeless? Okay? The closest he ever came to homeless was when, I think it was a year into our relationship. And he kept saying, I want you to go out the road with me. I want you to go. He wasn't making a lot of money. And all I had was what I was making.
According to Wendy, the polished image Steve and Marjorie presented to the world didn't fully line up with the tension and drama people close to the situation had allegedly been talking about for years. As more old stories started resurfacing, people online started connecting dots they had ignored for years. Clips from old interviews, radio shows, and comedy specials suddenly looked a lot different once fans started rewatching them with all this new context in mind. Some viewers even pointed out moments where Steve looked uncomfortable whenever conversations drifted too close to his personal life or former marriages. The situation also sparked bigger conversations about celebrity branding and how carefully public images can be managed in Hollywood. Critics argued that Steve built an empire around giving advice on relationships, family, and personal growth, while accusations about his past marriages kept floating around unanswered. That contrast became a huge talking point online, especially among people who felt his television persona didn't fully match the allegations tied to his private life. At the same time, Marjorie stayed mostly quiet while the internet kept dragging her name into every debate. But instead of slowing down, the rumors only seemed to grow stronger as more bloggers and gossip pages revisited claims about her past relationships, her influence over Steve, and the complicated family dynamics happening behind the scenes. And with Katt Williams and Wendy Williams both publicly speaking on it, the controversy suddenly felt impossible for fans to ignore anymore. Then things got even more awkward when fans started comparing how Steve responds to criticism versus how quickly he addresses smaller celebrity drama during his shows and interviews. People noticed that whenever serious questions about his family history or past relationships popped up online, there was usually silence or a quick effort to shift the conversation elsewhere. That only made internet detectives dig even deeper into old reports and resurfaced claims. Some critics also argued that Steve's motivational speeches started hitting differently once these accusations started gaining traction again. For years, he built a reputation around giving life advice, talking about loyalty, success, and treating family the right way.
So I said, I cannot just quit my job and go out there. So I guess about a year and a half later, I actually quit the job. And he was like, you gotta go, I need you out here. So there were nights when we had to get from like Dallas to Miami or whatever. Obviously, you can't drive that in one sitting. So yeah, there were some times when we pull over to a park or whatever. Steve was never homeless.
But now, some viewers were questioning whether the public image matched the reality behind closed doors. The backlash got even louder as clips of Katt Williams calling out Hollywood fakeness kept spreading all over social media platforms. Meanwhile, people close to the gossip world claimed Marjorie was frustrated with all the renewed attention surrounding her past. According to online chatter, she allegedly never expected old stories involving her former relationships and family controversies to come back in such a major way. And with Wendy Williams' old comments resurfacing at the same time, the internet turned the whole situation into one non-stop conversation that just wouldn't die down. What really surprised a lot of people was how quickly public opinion seemed to shift once these old clips and accusations started making the rounds again. Years ago, anybody questioning Steve and Marjorie usually got written off as a hater or somebody trying to stir up drama. But now, more viewers were starting to look at the situation differently, especially after hearing multiple celebrities bring up similar concerns over time. Social media users also started revisiting Steve's old interviews about marriage and loyalty, comparing his advice to the claims made by Mary Katt Williams and Wendy Williams. Some fans defended Steve and argued that nobody really knows what goes on inside a celebrity marriage. Others, though, felt the stories lined up a little too closely to ignore, and they believed there had to be at least some truth mixed in with all the controversy.
Y'all thought y'all had one over him. You thought he was black and ugly, and you were good looking, and he couldn't make it, cause you did. And that ain't the way comedy works. The king is the funniest. Period. Every time. And that's why no audience member was ever swayed. It didn't matter when Bernie went. You think if Bernie went first, he wasn't the king? Get out of here. Get out of here. Get your ego out of this. You let them...
At the center of it all, Lori Harvey's name kept getting pulled right back into the conversation, too. Critics claimed her high-profile lifestyle became symbolic of the bigger issues people were accusing the family of. Fame, image, and appearances taking priority over deeper family relationships. Fair or not, the internet kept tying Lori's public persona to the long-running debate surrounding Steve and Marjorie, and the speculation just kept getting louder. As the conversation continued spreading online, more people started questioning how much of Steve Harvey's success story had been carefully polished for television audiences over the years. Fans pointed out that almost every major celebrity brand depends on controlling public perception, and they wondered if Steve and Marjorie had mastered that better than most. From motivational speeches to relationship advice and glamorous family photos, critics argued that the image always looked almost too perfect. At the same time, supporters of Steve pushed back hard against the accusations and reminded everybody that internet rumors don't automatically mean facts. They argued that many of the stories being repeated came from old interviews, unresolved family disputes, and commentary from entertainers known for stirring controversy themselves. Still, that defense didn't stop people from digging deeper into the timeline of Steve's marriages, career rise, and blended family dynamics. Meanwhile, gossip pages kept reposting clips of Wendy Williams and Katt Williams discussing the situation, and every repost seemed to kick off another round of heated debates. The more those clips spread, the more younger fans who may not have known anything about Steve's earlier controversies suddenly got introduced to years of accusations and family drama all at once. And once the internet grabs onto a story like this, it rarely lets go quietly.
The heated debates. The more the clips spread, the more younger fans who may not have known anything about Steve's earlier controversies suddenly got introduced to years of accusations and family drama all at once. And once the internet locks on to a story like this, it rarely lets go quietly.
Some people, he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey was never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the stories. The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then show everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he's the principal and he wear a suit and then he gets this high top fade, making all black men think he got the best lineup in the business. And it's a man unit. Then you ask it, why you not a movie star? I didn't want to be a movie star. It's the same that hated on Bernie with this same thing.
By this point, the situation had grown way past simple celebrity gossip and turned into a full-blown debate about image loyalty and what really goes on behind closed doors in Hollywood families. Every new clip interview or resurfaced article seemed to add another layer to the story, and people online kept splitting into two sides. One side believed Steve and Marjorie had unfairly been targeted by years of rumors and bitterness, while the other side felt too many people had spoken up for everything to be completely made up. What also kept fans talking was the noticeable silence from Steve and Marjorie whenever these conversations started trending again. Instead of directly responding to every accusation, they usually kept posting polished family moments, luxury trips, and business updates like nothing was happening. To supporters, that showed confidence and maturity. But to critics, it looked like an effort to avoid addressing uncomfortable questions connected to the family's past. And through all the drama, Katt Williams' comments kept fueling the biggest discussions of all. His blunt criticism didn't just reopen old wounds involving Steve's personal life, it also made people rethink how much celebrity culture is built on carefully crafted stories that audiences accept without ever questioning what could really be happening behind the scenes.
This to my wife, I'm where I am. You said that about the first wife. You forget that you told us it was her. Then you went and married somebody else that thinks like a man. Like, what are you talking about?
The crazy part is that every time the controversy seemed like it was finally slowing down, another old interview or forgotten clip would suddenly go viral again and restart the whole conversation. Social media users kept digging through years of footage, pulling out moments where Steve, Marjorie, Wendy Williams, and Katt Williams all seemed to hint at tension behind the scenes. Once those clips started circulating together, people began building their own theories about what they believed really happened inside the Harvey household. Viewers also noticed how carefully Steve protects his public image whenever criticism starts getting too loud. Over the years, he built himself into more than just a comedian. He became a motivational speaker, TV host, businessman, and relationship advisor.
Steve adopted her when he got with Marjorie, his wife, but she got with him on.
That's why critics argue these accusations hit harder than regular celebrity drama, because his whole brand is tied to wisdom, honesty, and family values. Meanwhile, gossip blogs kept speculating about whether more people connected to the family might eventually start speaking out too. With Mary's accusations resurfacing, Katt Williams publicly backing parts of the story, and Wendy's old comments gaining traction again, many fans felt like the situation had reached a point where the internet wasn't ready to let the topic disappear anytime soon. And honestly, what made the whole situation even more intense was how people started comparing Steve Harvey's public advice to the allegations tied to his personal life. For years, millions of viewers tuned in to hear him talk about relationships, parenting, loyalty, and respect. But once these old accusations came back into the spotlight, critics started questioning whether the man giving all that advice had unresolved issues in his own family story that were never fully addressed. At the same time, supporters argued that celebrity families are complicated, and outsiders only ever hear one side of the story. They pointed out that rumors online can spread fast, especially when names like Katt Williams and Wendy Williams get involved. Still, even those defenses couldn't stop the non-stop debates happening across blogs, podcasts, and social media platforms every single day. Meanwhile, Marjorie kept becoming a major focus in the conversation, because critics believed her arrival marked the point where Steve's family relationships allegedly changed the most. Fair or unfair, many online commentators kept revisiting claims about Steve distancing himself from parts of his biological family, while publicly building a glamorous blended family image with Marjorie and her children. And with every reposted interview, the speculation only seemed to get louder and messier.
All I'm saying is, Steve, I hope you and Marjorie are very proud of your daughter. At 23 years old, being with a man with so many children and running around, and she dated Puffy and Puffy's son, allegedly. If this was my daughter at 23, I would break her neck, crack her skull, and throw her down the steps. That's all. And you're not supposed to your kids when they're 23 years old, but you could have implemented a certain type of way. Like all this right here, this is treasure.
One comment wrote, cheated on his first wife Mary with Marjorie, and later married her. Another person added, Steve Harvey got involved with a married woman while her husband was locked up, left his wife behind, and allegedly treated his own kids badly. Get your bag, Marjorie. Those kinds of comments have completely taken over social media lately, and people are still heavily divided on what to believe. Some fans think Katt Williams and Wendy Williams simply exposed an uncomfortable truth that had been hidden for years, while others believe the internet has blown old rumors way out of proportion. Either way, the conversation around Steve and Marjorie doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon, especially now that so many old interviews and accusations have started resurfacing again. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Katt Williams and Wendy Williams calling out Marjorie and Steve? And do you believe Marjorie got with Steve because of his success and money? Or do you think people are reading too much into it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, and click here to check out another messy celebrity breakdown everybody's talking about.